What's going on, everybody? Preacher Reads here, and let's talk about what I read in the month of June. All right, guys, so before we get started with what I read in the month of June, I thank you so much for all of your support on my 2,000 subs live stream. And I'm sorry, in the month of June, I didn't get more videos out. We went on vacation. I had church camp. We had some construction being done in the house. And between my kids being out of school and just trying to find another day to be able to record, it's been an absolute mess. But we're getting back on the horse, and you're going to be getting more videos in the month of July. So let's talk about what I read in the month of June, because even though I didn't have a lot of videos, I did read a lot of books. And so at the beginning of June, I finished up The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. Let's talk about this a little bit. If you would have asked me as soon as I finished it, I would have told you that I really enjoyed it. And as I sat on it, I still enjoyed it, but I had an issue that just kept coming back. And that was, this is not what I expect from Joe Abercrombie. This is not what I desire when I read Joe Abercrombie. I want something a little bit more epic. I want something a little bit more character focused. And the characters are a great example of what just didn't hit for me in this book. The characters all are distinct from one another, and I enjoyed reading them, but they all have about one or two character traits total. And what those character traits are really just the joke that Joe Abercrombie wants to continue to tell throughout the story for each character. Each character is kind of just one thing, and that thing is the joke that he continues to repeat throughout the story. And that does have some humor in it, and it does kind of make the story feel fast-paced and a little over the top and ridiculous, which is what I think Joe was trying to do. It's just not what I go to Joe Abercrombie for. I think if I had set my expectations a little bit differently, maybe I would have liked it even more. I think I gave it a 3 out of 5. Still not a terrible book, but definitely something different from what I usually am expecting from Joe Abercrombie. If someone asked me, hey, I want to read Joe Abercrombie, where should I start? I would not give them The Devils, because I don't think it just paints a good picture of what Joe does best. Next up, I was blessed to receive an arc of King Sorrow by Joe Hill. Now, when I got this, I almost teared up. Joe is one of my favorite authors of all time. Just thinking about the fact that it was sent to me, little me, early to read, man, that is so awesome and so undeserved in my opinion. But I dove right into this as soon as I got to vacation. It's a little bit of a chunker. It's about 900 pages, and I loved it. I think this is probably my second favorite Joe Hill novel if I had to rank them out. Horns would still be first. It was the first Joe Hill I read, and man, I just thought it engaged with some really interesting concepts revolving around moral quandaries and what is good and what is evil. I thought this book also dealt with some really interesting concepts that I'm going to leave for you to find out in October when it is released. But I will say this, do not go into this book expecting it to be Joe Hill's fantasy epic debut. This is not what he is trying to do. He is not trying to create an epic fantasy world revolving around this dragon, King Sorrow. This is much more like if it only had one timeline. This dragon, King Sorrow, that this group of friends is trying to destroy, while King Sorrow is trying to destroy them and the world, operates much more like a horror novel in the vein of it than it does like an epic fantasy. But it's done so well, and King Sorrow is such a cool antagonist, and the characters within this story do hit like I would expect from a Joe Hill novel. So if you like horror, if you like the bad monster and the group of friends trying to overcome it, this is a really cool way to be done, because it does insert some fantasy elements, but it is definitely more like a horror novel than anything else. But it comes out in October, and I think it's worth a read, whether you're a Joe Hill fan or not. Next up, I was looking to get away from the epic fantasy genre for just a little bit. I was feeling a little bogged down in so many worlds and so many names and so many different things that epic fantasy throws at you that I just needed a little bit of a break. And so while I was on vacation, I decided to try the new Frederick Bachman novel, My Friends. Now, big Frederick Bachman fan here, loved Beartown and that series, loved A Man Called Ove. I think that Bachman does what he does so well when you talk about slice of life, when you talk about just getting down into real nitty-gritty character work in these difficult stories that engage the real problems that exist in the world. And so I was excited to read this, and it was good. It wasn't my favorite Bachman. Probably would be right behind Beartown and A Man Called Ove, but it was done really well. The character work is really good. Bachman chooses to do a little bit of a weird thing where he flips back and forth pretty regularly between two different timelines, and I thought it was done really well and just served to make the story even more interesting. This group of friends is living life together in one of these timelines, and you're seeing them grow and deal with things. And then in the next timeline, you're seeing almost the next generation engaging with what happened with that friend group. And it revolves around art, and it revolves around artistic expression and being different than those around you, but still having value within yourself. And I thought this was really well done. My only nitpick is that these 13 and 14-year-old kids who are not really that educated, who are artistic, but have never really engaged that in an academic setting, oftentimes throw out like one-liners and quotes about the importance of art, about the importance of expression that would never come out of a 13-year-old's mouth. And so that took me out of it a little bit. I felt like Bachman had some things to say, and he chose to say them very eloquently through the mouths of kids who don't speak eloquently. And so that just didn't hit for me. It took me out a little bit, but I thought the ending was brilliant. The ending was unexpected. And I think this is a book you should read if you're looking to get away from fantasy, get away from horror, get away from sci-fi, ground yourself, and especially if you love discussing and thinking about artistic expression. This was a good book and definitely hit for me with Bachman. In the middle of all of these reads, I continued in my Cirque du Freak reread from when I was 12. These are books 5 and 6, and these are probably two of the books I remember the most fondly, and they hit. They were great. They were exactly what I expected. Darren Shan is continuing to get better at writing while also continuing to raise the stakes of the story, and the characters are fantastic, and I love all of them, and that's really what brings me back to this book is just the memories of reading it. I highly recommend having nostalgia reads in between or even during some of your bigger books. These really helped me in a lot of ways to just alongside reading my friends and the next book I'm going to talk about and the Joe Hill book, to just hop into these occasionally and really just get like a mini palate cleanser in the middle of reading some bigger works. But Cirque du Freak was fantastic. Continuing that, reading book 7 right now while I am reading Demon in White, and it's been, again, a great way to just hop into that for 10 to 15 pages, and before you know it, you're done with it and you've enjoyed it, and it's actually helping you to enjoy the other book you're reading even more. So I highly recommend doing that, and maybe Cirque du Freak is a series that you can do it with. And last but not least, I read Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. What can I say about this book? This book is about generational trauma. It's about generational addiction, and these are two things that are very near and dear to me. These are two things that I've engaged with both in my personal life and in my life as a pastor. And one of the goals of my life is to break the cycle that has existed in my family tree when it comes to addiction and when it comes to generational trauma. And so reading this book, it had me angry because the main character and the people around the main character are making decisions throughout this book that almost feel over the top. If you've never been a part of this world, you would probably think this book was over the top, that it was extra, that it was too much. But this is how this goes. This is how this happens. And so as I was reading through this, there was characters, especially the main character's girlfriend at one point, that I just wanted to dive into the book and choke her because it reminded me of real pain that I've been through. It reminded me of real trauma that I have experienced because of the decisions of others. And I tell you, it hurts even more in this book when you think about the fact that the main character, Demon, believes that the people around him who are digging this hole in his life, who are pushing him down into the same cycles that they've been in, are the people that love him. And just dealing with that question of, man, does someone really love me if they would continue to drive me in the wrong direction, continue to push me into the cycles of abuse and trauma and addiction that have hurt them so much. And we know that hurt people hurt people. And so reading this book, man, it really hurt. It really dug into my skin. And for most of this book, I was not having a great time. But it's so well written and the story was so compelling, I continued. And Barbara ends this book in the exact perfect way that she needed to get me back. See, you shift from being angry at the characters to then asking yourself, well, what am I doing about this in my life and in the lives of others? How am I trying to help break these cycles? How am I trying to help end these issues in my life and in the life of the communities around me? And so if you're reading this book and you have no clue that this is how real life is in some places, it is. And if you're reading this book and this hits really close to home, I think you're going to have a very similar experience to me. And so as I'm reading this, man, I really struggled at times to just want to read it. Not because it wasn't a great book, but because it just hit really close to home and forced me to deal with some feelings that I have towards specific things, right? Like addiction is something that has broken lots of things in my family. And so it makes me mad to think about it, especially as somebody who has never drank, has never smoked, and never done these things, because I wanted to break that cycle. To see it happening on the page just brought me back. And that can be a good thing, man. You just have to be ready for it. Some books are escapist, right? The Cirque du Freak series, it's escapist. There's nothing in there that's driving me back into my experiences and dealing with brokenness, right? It's just a book. But sometimes you need a book that's gonna make you look in the mirror, make you ask yourself some tough questions, make you deal with some things that are welling up inside. And I thought The Demon Copperhead did such a great job of this. It is probably going to be in my top 10 all time next time I make that list. All right, guys, thank y'all so much for being patient with me for another video. I know it's been a while, but we're going to have some more regular videos coming up. We are starting a podcast with the Book Street Boys. Every other week, there's going to be about an hour-long podcast with 3 to 5 of the Book Street Boys and maybe a special guest, where we're going to chat about what we're reading. We're going to rant about something that we think is important, and we're going to talk about some big topics. Next week, we're going to talk about the importance of setting expectations. Do expectations change how you read or how you even rate a book? If you go into a book expecting an all-timer and it's just really good, man, how does that affect how you view and rate that book? And then we're also going to be taking user questions. So I would love if you would put into the comments some user questions that you would like answered during the Book Street Boys podcast. Be looking for that on my channel every other week starting next week. If you would please give this video a like, if you would subscribe, that would be awesome. It means the world. Thank you guys so much for your support, and I will see you in the next one.